Welcome back to another episode of The Real Deal on where we actually get into the real deal on what it takes to overcome obstacles, to deal with challenges, to find our way and navigate our way through the detours of all of the challenges that life presents us, both personally and professionally. And I have the absolute honor to have an amazing dear friend of mine who is crushing it in business and in his personal life as an amazing family man. So we're going to get into really what it takes to make it happen when we have those challenges. And Nitsan Mosery, my dear friend, will be sharing with you how he has navigated his way. So without further ado, let's welcome Nitsan Mosery.
Hey, how are you, my friend? That was a great intro.
Excellent.
I love that. What's that button you press? I need one of those.
Oh, part of my rig here. I've my microphone goes to a console, which goes digitally into the computer.
That's awesome.
Oh.
That's awesome.
So thank you so much for taking your most valuable asset, your time, and investing in us here. So please share with us, who you are, what drives you. You could get into, of course, your businesses, and then we'll just start looking at how you've navigated and made it work during some crazy times.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it. And it's been fantastic getting to know you deeper and work with you and really connect with you. It's been a pleasure. Um, So a little bit about me. I'm first generation American. I was born to an immigrant family that came over from Israel, and um, we in my house, I grew up speaking two languages, English and bad English. Right, so I had to translate broken English and understand what my parents wanted from me. So
Do you
that
not
was
speak
always
Hebrew?
no, they spoke Hebrew.
I know, but do you like those are
Yes,
the two
yes,
languages? So you have three: bad
three, right,
English, regular English, and Hebrew. Okay.
and Hebrew exactly. My father, I joke. My father used to say, "Tomorrow you come, me breakfast bring," and I had to realize that tomorrow for breakfast he wants coffee.
Got it. So sort of Yoda language.
Exactly. Exactly. So I grew up in a very entrepreneurial home. Um, and my father, I think dropped out of school at the age of six, not on the sixth grade, excuse me. Because of where Israel was at that time, and he helped work and support his family and all that. And when they came to this country, well, they came here so that they can give their children a better life,
Mm,
more opportunity and whatnot. And so I grew up with that mentality, with that head. Although, growing up, my father always told me, go be a lawyer, go study law. Lawyers, they know the law, so they can do anything. You can do business, you can do contracting, you can do real
mm.
estate, the law. So, fast forward, I'm sitting in college and, taking my first business law course. And I remember the professor walks in and he hands us a thick book and he goes, okay, by next week, this time, I want you to read the first 10 chapters. I was like, all right, that's it. I'm done. It's not for me. I'm not the one that has the, can I say ass?
Say whatever
I
you
guess I
want. Yeah.
just did.
Yeah.
I didn't have the ass for sitting and learning in a school setting. I was
Mm,
always the kind of person that take me outside, show me in real life, teach me, right? Take me by the hand, show me what I have to do, and I'm a quick learner. So that's how I grew up. And at the age of 25, when I was 25, he passed away, and that threw me for a
mm,
downward spiral. Because I was brought up with the mentality that money runs the world. Work, 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 collect all the money that you have that you can, and that's freedom, that's enjoyment, that's what life is all about. And then he passed away when he was 65 years old, and which is fairly young.
mm.
And I didn't know what life was all about. I didn't want to spend my days behind a desk, or not even behind a desk, but I didn't want to spend my days exchanging time for money.
Right.
It's not the point of why we're here. So at the age of 25 or 27, actually, I sold everything. I packed up my bags. I moved to Israel. I sat on the beach for about a year, watching the sun go up and down, contemplating my belly button. And then my my friend told me that he was going to India, And for 2 months, taking 2 months off of work, I said, you know what? I'm coming with you. I've got nothing to do here. No responsibilities, no nothing, not a mortgage, not rent, I don't have a job. I don't have relationships. I'm by myself. So why not? We traveled for 2 months. It was eye opening. He left, went back to Israel to go back to work. And I stayed. I stayed for about a year and I continued traveling for about 6 years all around the world, just on an empty backpack. And that was one of the most life changing experiences that made me who I am today.
And that time, so you said 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you just living off of the whatever you had sold and that you just had enough cash to do that? Or were you uh,
Yeah,
entrepreneurial at that time?
that's a great question. So what I sold, well, the money that I had lasted me for the first year that I was living in Tel Aviv. And
Hmm.
then I basically didn't have anything. I had a couple of $100 that was coming in on a monthly basis, nothing to really support me. So uh, I had to learn quickly how to make money. So I learned massage therapy on the
Hmm.
way from different people. I became a Reiki master. So I started doing Reiki and I started teaching Reiki and I started doing massage therapy. And then in India, I learned how to make jewelry, with all these semi-precious stones. Like
Hmm.
I have here my amethyst and my different crystals and whatnot, which I still have today that are and
It's
so
awesome.
using these crystals, I would go out and make jewelry and I go to different festivals. I'd sell my jewelry, and that's how I would make money. That's how I kept traveling.
You are gypsy.
I was a very big gypsy, yes, and I still consider myself a gypsy. Although, when you have two kids, you want to give them a strong base, a strong foundation,
Hmm.
so that the gypsy mentality was still there. However, for the last 18 years, we've been planted in one place, but traveling when we can, going to different places.
Right. Well, and your investments are in different states, so you're still having some gypsy-esque uh, experiences, presumably.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. I mean, we were just traveling now. I was in Arkansas and Tennessee, and then I came back and I flew back to Arkansas. And next week I'm going to Vegas, and so that keeps me going. And that's kind of why I fell into this business because it gave me the opportunity to travel.
Right. And you're whereas I am the Lord of Rock, you are the traveling investor.
That's right. There it is, right there. That's my
Yeah.
logo, traveling investor.
Love it.
Hmm.
So obviously you've been on a spiritual path, one who says, you know what, I'm going to live out of a backpack for some time and meditate on the existence of life for a year after having a tragedy in the family, and then spend all that time. Obviously, if some people who are listening, if you don't know what Reiki is, it's a healing modality, and so there's obviously a deep connection to your higher power, to whatever language you use, and we'll learn that in a minute. Were you like that prior to your father's passing? Were you always connected to that otherness, to God, to whatever? Like, were your spiritual ties, were you raised, religious, or like how deep does that go, or and what was that experience like?
Sure, no, that's a great question. So, uh, I grew up in a traditional household, not a religious household.
Hmm.
So we celebrated the major holidays in the Jewish tradition and whatnot. But I didn't go to the synagogue. I didn't go to the temple.
Did
Um,
you guys do Shabbat and all of
no,
that?
not really. No, we didn't do
Okay.
Shabbat. We had dinner every night at home, as a family. My father would
Hmm.
come home from work. We'd all sit down, my brothers and I, my mom would make food and whatnot, but we didn't necessarily celebrate the Shabbat,
Hmm.
right? We didn't light candles or do anything of that nature, but it was more so the holidays to keep the traditions going. Now, mind you, my grandfather from my father's side was a big rabbi in Israel. He spoke 7 languages and things of that nature. And my father was one of those types of people that was brought up in that. Um, but when World War II was going on and everything that my father saw, what was going on in the world, he kind of said, if there was a God, why would this happen? So
Hmm.
he kind of stepped back from that as well, but yet keeping the tradition, the roots of
Right.
who we are, and so forth. Um, I I grew up looking at rabbis and religious people, and because we were always taught that talk to your rabbi. Your rabbi is the one that communes with God, and you want to call it God, I call it energy, we call it a head of lettuce, whatever you want to call it. It's understanding that we're all connected. There's a higher being, there's an energy, there's something out there that connects all of us. And I always had the idea that I don't need anybody else to commune with my maker.
Hmm.
My maker talks to me. My maker speaks to me. But when I was growing up in New York, it was all money driven. Had nothing to do with spirituality, had nothing to do with any of that.
What was money driven? The
Life,
light. Okay. Yeah.
life, the meaning of life.
Yeah.
Um, you know, um, I was, I heard a lot from my brothers, telling me, when money's out the door, love is not too far behind it, right? When you're in a relationship,
Hmm.
right? So money runs the world. It's all about money. Make as much money as you can. Doesn't really matter how you do it, but you want to make as much money as you can. And then when my father passed away, I kind of said, well, shit, if he passed away and he didn't take any of it with him,
Yeah.
right? And not only that, but it caused problems in my family. And it caused separation and disconnection, and that all of that threw me for a downward spiral. So when I left and I started traveling and I started meeting people and learning more about the spiritual life and about how to bring things into my life and call things out and whatnot, I connected with myself more, and I realized that it's not about money. It's not about any of that. It's not about the material things. Now, don't get me wrong. Having a nice car, having a great place to live, going out and creating memories with my family and taking them on trips, that's fantastic. And you need money to do that. But that's not the purpose of life.
Mm.
Purpose of life is to, if you have a family, it's to obviously put a roof over their heads, but to connect with them,
Right.
right? Create memories, because when we're dead, and I just buried my mother 3 months ago. Wow, it's already 3 months. She didn't take anything with her.
Mm.
She left it. We
Yeah.
leave everything behind, right? I was listening to this guy called Sadhguru, one of these big Indian gurus on social media and whatnot, and he says, we come into this world with nothing, and then we stress our entire lives over things that we have and don't have and losing things and whatnot. He goes, why are you worried? Anyway, you're going to leave this earth with nothing.
Yep.
So why be sad? Why be stressed? Go out, enjoy life. Whatever happens, happened. Obviously, right? There's a balance in there. You don't want to throw your hands up and give up and
Right.
say,
Yeah.
okay, whatever. My kids can sleep in the streets and we'll lose the house and whatnot. But you have to instill a spirituality. You have to instill more than just going out there and making a buck,
Yeah.
right? And
And the from what you're sharing, what I'm gathering as well, I think the people who are the most grounded in that is the money is just part of their legacy.
mhm,
And that those are the people who what they can sort of nothing can't take anything with them, but what they could leave behind is even more memories. So this is the how we're setting up, whether it's a foundation or things of that nature. That's where I've noticed some of the people who are the most connected spiritually realize that their legacy, it's the what they do want to leave behind is the positive experience and memories of, and oftentimes that doesn't mean just leaving a huge sum of money
right.
to somebody, but it's setting them up with some experiences.
Correct. Correct. It's how many people can you touch in a positive way?
Yep.
How many people can you leave a lasting impression on? How many people can you take from point A to point G or C, whatever it is, and when they think about their life, they remember you as someone who was there to help them. And it could be something as simple as, just somebody falls on the street and you give them a hand up, a
Hmm.
stranger,
Yep.
and you say, hey, are you okay? Great. You see somebody crying on the street, go, hey, is everything all right? I see you're a little stressed. It doesn't have to be these grandiose things, events, and whatnot. It's the little tiny details, the simple things in life that make the most. That it's that butterfly effect, right?
Yep.
Flaps its wings. The little butterfly is nothing, but it reverberates and it goes out into the world. So there's this philosophy in Judaism. It's called tikkun olam. It means repairing of the world. And
Mm.
every Jew is responsible to repair the world in any way you can. If you see injustice happening, bring justice. Poverty, bring charity, right? So in any way that you can, as a Jew, and I'd say this to anyone, doesn't matter if you're Jewish or not, it's up to us to leave this world a better place than we found it, right?
100%.
And that's being an example as what a man is to my daughters, right?
Yep.
And that's how I see it.
Ooh, let's talk about that for me because your daughters are a little older than mine right now. What I know it's sort of a sidetrack, but it's all relevant to life. Um, how do you experience your to your point earlier, like that you are essentially a model for your daughters, like they're either going to marry someone who is in line and kind of with you in your way of being or diametrically opposed.
Hmm.
And I don't know if that's a thought you have and you
Of
you
course.
you kind of worry, like, how do you navigate that? But what has your experience been in that? Are you noticing any patterns? Are you noticing the choices your children are making and seeing either the, kind of going against what that, or kind of going, oh, I taught them well.
No, absolutely. That's that's a great question, and it's something, as a parent, and I'm sure we go through life and we say, okay, that I did really well, that I could have done much better on, and I don't know if other parents, but myself, there's also a lot of guilt as a parent, right?
Mm,
Oh, why did I do that? Why did I say that? I could have done this better. Shoot, and whatnot. But what I can do as a man is just be the model, be the
right.
example, because kids really don't do what you tell them to do. They watch what you do,
Yeah.
right? And so and again, I do the best that I can. I'm a human being, right? I have my faults, I have my good things, and I have my bad things, right? And I want them to learn as well. I want them to see the bad and go, you know what? I'm never doing that crap.
Hmm.
And I want them to see the good and go, ooh, yeah, I liked how we handled that, right? So being the model, first of all, and then on the flip side of that, and yes, I see I see them doing certain things that they model me and they model their mother, and then there's other things going, where in God's name did that come from?
The
Really?
YouTubes.
Right? Like, oh, what? Okay, right? But the thing is that you have to, from my experience, and I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist. You got to let them experience life. You got to let them make mistakes. And as a parent, we have to let them know that I'm here no matter what, no judgments,
Hmm.
right? You know, if you're having a hard day, come home. If you're broke, come home. If you're a heartache, come home. Home, we're here. We will always welcome you. This is your safe spot.
Yeah.
We will comfort you. We will be here for you. And that gives them the strength. And on top of that, we have to build their character so that they are strong people, so that they will go after someone that will treat them right because they have a good um, self self worth,
Yeah.
right? If my child doesn't see herself as I see her up here, and she sees herself down low, she's going to go with someone who's going to treat her like crap. So my job is to show her how amazing she is, to pinpoint, to to guide and build up her character so that she has that strong character and she goes out there into the world going, this is me and I demand the best
Yeah.
and I won't take anything less from that.
And how's that all going? Are
I'll
they
let you know in about 10 years.
okay? Well, how old are they now?
16 and 18.
Well, okay. So, but they are potentially dating or at least
They are.
hanging out with, different types of friends and
Yes.
so forth. And what have you noticed in that? Like, because there had to be. This is interesting. Like, just to get a real deal, because I know my daughter is very strong-willed. She's picked
Hmm.
up the best and worst of Heidi and I, and
Right.
that's amazing. And not that there's anything bad about either of us, but um, you, I guess you're further along the
Right.
path. So
Right.
you've been through the teenage, the angst,
Hmm.
the hormones. And I'm sure you talked about guilt earlier, and I'm sure it's been gut wrenching at times and painful and confusing and all of the above. Um, I mean, you don't necessarily have to share any stories per se. Um, and if you could just share how you've dealt with some of those challenges, because those are real challenges because they're so emotionally charged. Like it's
Oh,
one thing
absolutely.
we could look at and I think this is instructive. We could look at a real estate deal that's having a challenge, and it could be
Hmm.
frustrating, it could be whatever, and you could be getting a little emotional with some of your
Sure.
partners and all of that. But man, when
Sure.
it's your kids or your wife, it's a whole different level of
Oh, yes.
leverage. So how share maybe a situation or necessarily you don't have to give the details, but how you dealt with it.
No, absolutely. That's great. So, and again, like you said, our kids, they're their own person. We don't own them.
Yep.
We have to appreciate them for who they are.
And who they
Right? And that's
aren't.
why I say, right, that's why I say we're a role model. We're
Right.
not we're not a dictator. We're not telling them this is how you should behave, this is who you are. And I'll give you an example. Like when my daughters were young, kids, right? They're checking to see who they are. So they'll wear two different color socks and an offset shirt and different, leggings and skirts and whatnot. And God bless my mother and my mother raised four boys and whatnot. But when my daughters would show up to her house, she'd look at them. She goes, "What are you dressed like this for? This is not a way a young lady should be dressed." And I was like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 time out, time out." We don't tell them that's not the way a lady
Right.
should be dressed. She is a lady and she can dress any way she wants. Why? Because if she's dressed the way she wants and she'll go to school, let's say, and I don't know, and I'm just talking out of my ass right now, but let's say a couple of girls kind of point the finger and laugh. How would she feel about that? Or, her friends would be like, "Oh, I love your dress. I love this." How would she feel about that? Let the world and let her deal with that. Then she can come home to us and say, "Hey, I had this experience today in school. Some kids laughed at me at this. Well, how did that make you feel? Do you think they were right? What do you feel? Do you want to change? Do you want to stay the same?" Let them come
Hmm.
to their own realizations, their own answers, right? So I had a lot of issues like that with my mother, God bless her, um, when my daughters were growing up, right? And of course, as parents, we want our kids to do certain things, and they don't do it, and we get frustrated, and things change. But I'll give you an example. Another one. So my daughter's 18. She wanted to take a year off and figure out what she wanted to do, and so we sat, my wife and I talked to my wife. I said, "Hey, why don't we have a conversation with my daughter, with our daughter, and see what she wants to do and help her plan something, not give her a plan, but talk to her, see what she wants, where she's going, give her ideas, give her, something." So we sat with her, we had a conversation with her, and she really digged law, and she did, every week she's like, "Oh, I want to be an anesthesiologist. Oh, I want to be this. Oh, I want to be that. Oh, I want to be this. I want to be that." Okay, well, let's and I totally get it. You're 18 years old. You have no idea who you are or what you want to do when you're 30, 40. So I
Yep.
get it. But I told her, I said, "Listen, if you want to go study and you want to study law, I think it might be, and this is just a suggestion, get a job at a law firm. Even if you're sweeping the floors and getting coffee, right? At least you're earning income. You have a responsibility, but then you can also listen to conversations. You can see
Hmm.
what they do. You can see if this is what you want to get into."
Yeah. So rather than go to law school only and get a job only to find out, I don't want to do that.
Right, right, exactly, exactly. So she's like, yeah, okay, that sounds interesting. And then I met with one of my friends who's an attorney. I said, hey, you interested? Yeah, you know anybody? My daughter. And I gave him the story. He goes, have her call me. I said, okay. I said, and I told him, I said, dude, don't hire her because of me. Hire her for her own value and what she can do and criteria and credibility and all that kind of stuff. So he went, they had a conversation, he loved her. She's now working with them and she's doing great. They love her. She's
And does
writing
she love it?
briefs, yeah, and she's enjoying it. She's enjoying it because she's learning about all these different cases and different things, and she's writing briefs and whatnot. So rather than us going, you got to go to school, it's university, and you got to do 4 years, blah blah blah. Kids don't respond to that. We had a conversation with her, and I helped her, and I said, you're not getting the job because of me. You're getting the job on your own merit. So, realize with that. And then with my 16-year-old, I told her also, I said, look, you come to us for everything that you want, blah, blah, blah. You're doing a little babysitting here, a little babysitting there. How would you feel if you had your own money? And then you wouldn't have to ask us if you wanted to buy a $150 pair of shoes. She goes, oh, no, no, no. I would still ask you to buy it even if I had a job.
Uh,
It's like, okay, I
yeah,
get
God
it.
bless
I
her
get it.
honesty. Yeah.
Right. Right. But, pushing them in that way so that they can see what it's like, what their worth is, what they like. Now, so she went to work as a hostess in a restaurant. She didn't like it because it was boring. So now she's getting a job at a shoe store in Del Rey on the Avenue. So, right, guiding them, bringing them into different scenarios, letting them think on their own, right? And yes, there was a time, we had them in Montessori school from the time they were able to go to school up until the 8th grade, up until high school. And my so their Montessori school, there was like maybe 5 to 10 kids max in the class.
Wow, that's great.
And then they went to Boca High, which has like 3,000 students.
Oh, culture shock.
Culture shock, getting in with the wrong group and whatnot, and the wrong kids, and they were vaping and they were this and all these things. So that was a challenge. And I got to give credit to my wife where she came and she found this book. And I recommend this to any parent who's got a kid on the way, kids coming, teenagers, whatever. It's a fantastic book, and I don't get any money from them. I should get royalties for promoting. I think I've like made them $100,000 at least with promotion of this book. It's called How to Have a New Teenager by Friday. And it's a psychiatrist, a psychologist, one of the head doctors. He has 6 daughters.
Oh,
God bless him.
he's got case studies.
He's got case studies, and he talks about, and you're reading it and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. You're thinking about it. It's like, it's nothing that we didn't think about or we haven't heard or whatnot, but it's the way he says it and the way he implements it. For example, right? You ask your kids, hey, you know what? Today's your day to do chores. Yeah, whatever. I'll get to it. Okay. I said it once. If the chores don't get done today, no problem. There's no yelling. There's no screaming. There's no running after them. Tomorrow they're going to come and they're going to go, hey, Pops, can I get $20 to go out with my friends and whatnot? Oh, you want $20? Now this is what he calls the teaching moment. He goes, you want $20 from me? Do you remember yesterday when I asked you one time to do your chores? Did you accomplish what your tasks are in this family? Well, no, I'll do it tomorrow. Okay. Well, if you do it tomorrow, then come to me the following day once it's done, and then I'll give you the money. And that's when you'll be allowed to go out with your friends. There's no arguing. There's no yelling. There's no screaming. Because when come on, go do it. I do it. Right. It goes up. It goes beyond one ear through the other. There's animosity between parents and children. There's a bad attitude, bad energy. But if you just stay calm, stay true to yourself, and that's where the spirituality also comes in, right? Balance, Zen, breathe.
Yeah.
Okay. You remember yesterday when I asked you and you said no, or you gave me a bad attitude? Well, for that reason, and it sounds like the Shark Tank. And for those reasons,
yeah, I'm gonna pass. Right.
Right. And so it's just a great book to read. And that really helped us with them. Hey, remember we talked about we don't vape in this family and we've caught you vaping? Yes. Well, for that reason, you're grounded for the next week and you're not going out with your friends. Do you remember when we saw you doing this? Or remember when you talked to your mother that way? You talked to your father that way? For those reasons. And there was no more yelling.
Right. And these are also it's not just sort of retroactive, meaning yesterday you did this. It's we have an understanding that we don't do this.
Correct.
You did do it. Yesterday you did do it. So it's not
Mhm.
it's
Correct.
like they're very aware of what
Right.
the do's and
Right.
don'ts are
You don't
in that
talk to your mother in
context.
that tone of voice. You don't use those words. You be respectful to her. And because
Yeah.
you weren't,
So do you wait till the next day for that or in that moment?
no, no.
So what
They
if
they they
it's
they caused the
happening?
foul. They caused a foul, right? They caused the foul, whatever it is. They
Yeah.
disrespected. They
Hmm.
didn't do the trust. You say one time, Doug, please don't talk to your mother that way, right? Yeah, but I said what I said. Okay. Now we don't get into it with them.
Right. Not in that
You let
moment.
the situation die down because everybody now is high emotions,
Hmm.
energy, adrenaline, blah, blah, blah. No one's going to listen. Yeah, but I know, but you, yeah, but I pointing things. Then when they come to you with a need, with an ask, with a question, with something, then you can say, sit down for a minute. Remember yesterday, Doug, when
Hmm.
when your mother said something, she asked you to take out the trash and you were disrespectful to her. We don't talk like that to mom and to me and to your mother that way in this family. And now you're asking me for the car. I'm sorry, you can't have the car because you broke one of the golden rules in the family is respect thy mother and father. And then they go into, yeah, but no, 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 there is no buts. If, if now, and I tell them, it's okay to get angry. It's okay to get upset. It's okay to not want to do something. But in life, there are consequences for everything. It's okay.
Hmm.
You don't have to take out the trash. You don't have to. You can say, listen, I don't want to do it today. No problem. You don't have to do it today, but don't come to me tomorrow asking for something.
Right.
Right. So it's,
So, question, have you used this boundary strategy in business?
uh, yes, I think I have. Yes. I'm trying to think. Well, yes, boundaries, yes, because so with investors, for example, right?
Hmm.
They're asking for certain things, or we have or even with tenants, right? I was talking with some of my coaching clients the other day. Your your tenants will either train you as the manager, or you will train your tenants on how to behave and act towards you, right? I'll
Yeah.
give you an example. So let's say your policy in your apartment complex or your rentals, right? You pay rent on the first of the month. And on the lease, it says by the fifth of the month, it's late. And then by the eighth of the month, you get a 3 day eviction notice, 5 day, whatever it is, right? And that's in your policies, right? That's in the lease. Everybody signs that. Day one of the month comes, you don't get the rent. By day five, it's late. By day eight, you don't submit that eviction notice. You let it slide.
Mm.
Yeah, it's okay. Pay me by the 10th. And just like kids, they'll come and they'll give you excuse. Yeah, well, hey, I didn't. I had to buy sneakers. My daughter, my son, my child, my dad. And you go, yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. They are now training you and how to behave to them with them being late. You're giving them the okay to be late on rent and you're not going to do anything. And we were out right before this call. I was on a property management call and I told them, I said, we have to be strict on our evictions. Yeah, but evictions are expensive. I said, evictions are expensive. It's more expensive to have a $2,000 delinquency on our rent roll and have somebody in there rather than evicting them and putting somebody else in. So we got to hit them hard. Now, the reason, right? So now on the flip side, you sign a lease, first day of the month, rent is due. On the fifth day, it's late. Guess what? On the eighth day, they get served an eviction notice, 3 day notice to pay, or we're going to file. Guess what happens? They're going to start hey, well, hey, that's all good. Excuses are great, all that, but we have
This is our
policies and
policy.
procedures
Yep.
in line, right? This is the way it is. Is this your signature? Yes. Are these your initials? Yes. So you understand. And I tell the tenant, this is our business, but this is your place to live. There's a fine line. You pay us on time. We're able to keep your property beautiful and renovated and clean and secure and safe. You don't pay, we have to now go and evict you because we have bills to pay and we have to keep the property at a certain place, right? So that border has to be set.
Yep.
If you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. Right.
Yeah.
And the same thing with investors, right? You can't just go to the property without letting us know. You have to call us in. We have to let you in. There's a procedure done to everything.
The system.
Yeah.
Got to follow the system.
Right. And I'm sorry, but when you have multiple tenants, like a bigger multifamily, a duplex, 3, 10, 100 units, and you're lax on your borders with 1 or 2 tenants, guess what happens? They start talking to everybody else. And guess what happens then? One person was lax, then 2 people are lax, and 3 people. Next thing you know, you've got a bunch of delinquencies. Why? Because people talk. They know that he's not gonna file an eviction. With the property that I was just on, we started filing for evictions. You know what happened? Property managers start getting texts. Hey, I'll be in today to pay. Hey, I'm sorry. Right? They start freaking out because you're dropping the axe. You're doing what you said you were going to do. And it's the same thing with kids. Don't make empty threats. Oh, I'm going to take the car away from you if you don't do that. And they don't do that. And you don't take the car away. They know they can get away with it.
100%.
So now, don't make threats that you can't execute on. Exactly.
Yep.
Right. You gotta. And again, that's the breathing. That's the being centered. That's because kids also want to see, how can I get you off center?
Mm-hmm.
How can I knock you off your center? What's it going to take? And if you're cool and calm, and this goes with relationships with husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, siblings, parents. If someone sees that they can knock you off, and again, I am not Buddha, I am not Jesus, I am a human being who makes mistakes. I get knocked off of my center 17 times a day at least, right? But the point is to learn from it and to go, okay, I was knocked off. Okay, let's be aware.
Exactly, and that's it. Is how quickly can we get back centered? Because that's what life is a series of sort of ducking and diving, dodging and weaving, ducking and weaving. Like that's what we're doing in every area of our life to some extent. And part of it's actually neurobiological. It's our brain is wired for non-pain.
Right.
So it's always looking for ways to avoid any discomfort of any sort, emotional, physical. So it's always looking for the problem so it can do something about it, which is then it's the fight, or freeze.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to pick one of those to deal with whatever that situation is, which is, I think, back to the original sort of idea is, how do we navigate when that comes up? So you breathe. Do you have any mantras or any other tools or strategies that you've kind of adopted as your what you lean into when the going gets tough?
Yes, I do a lot of breathing, different breathing techniques depending on what I want to accomplish. Obviously, if I want to relax, I'll take in deep breaths in through the nose into my stomach, and slowly exhale outward. I go into a state of gratitude and appreciation for what I have and what I don't have, and all the things that I don't have, and where I am today. Being in real estate and commercial real estate, the last 2 years, it's been a roller coaster. The last 15 years, things have been great for everyone. Anybody and their grandmother that got into real estate was a real estate, expert.
Yeah.
But when things get tough, that's when you really got to sit and take care. I go out for walks. To ground myself. I'll go outside in my yard and I'll put my feet in the dirt, not on the asphalt, not on the driveway, on the dirt. I'll go to the beach. We live in South Florida, so we have the beach. I'll go to the beach, put my toes in the sand, put my toes in the water. I'll go at, doesn't matter really when, but I'll go to the beach and I'll stand off by the bushes and I'll just yell at the top of my lungs and just let all that energy out. And then, I breathe in and I say, out with the negativity, in with the positivity. I do some visualizations where I visualize a big golden sphere of golden energy, warm energy from the sun just above my head. And then I'll visualize where it kind of goes all through my body, and I'll scan my body with the light, taking away all of the stress, tension, negativity, wherever I feel something. And then as it's done, then I'll go back, I'll clean that ball of energy, and then I'll do it again. And then I'll input positivity,
Mm.
positive energy, right? Um, and then I'll visualize where I want to be spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, relationship wise, business wise, and things of that nature. And you'll be amazed at what happens. One of my mantras is, for example, I'm so happy and grateful with all the for all of the streams of income that I have in my life. Simple,
Love it. Yeah.
simple, right?
And you can't be grateful and angry at the same time.
That's right.
So
Hmm.
uh,
And one of my Reiki masters taught me, and I forget who came up with this, but it was someone else who came up. He goes, every day and in every way, I'm getting better, better, and better.
yep.
And you just keep, when I go out for a walk, I'll repeat that out loud
Hmm.
because it's good to do it in, quietly, but to hear it, right? It's a different thing when you hear it, when you feel the vibration of
Yep.
the words coming out, right? Words are powerful, thoughts are powerful. Um, if we knew how powerful our thoughts are, we would never have a negative thought in our life.
Yeah.
It's that powerful. But again, we're human. We have that, you know, we get into balance, and then within that split second of being in balance, we fall out of
Well,
balance again. Right? It's it's
yeah.
not the it's not the achievement of balance, it's the movement toward balance that we
Yeah.
work on.
Yeah. Because nothing is static.
Mm-mm,
So
nothing
it's
is static.
it it's embracing the dynamism of life and
Mhm.
then sort of riding the wave. And that's
Right.
what's great because using that analogy at the beach, what's more fun, standing on the sand or riding the wave in, right?
Mhm.
It's two different experiences,
Right.
but if you're looking to you tap into the resources, that energy is a powerful energy, and that's what we're looking to do in life, is to create that energy to show up with even more love, with even more gratitude, with even more creativity, with even more compassion and empathy. Whereas we're not trying to put everything in the box that we've
Hmm.
created, and
Hmm.
because if all you got is that box, and then that's what you're focusing through. It's the old adage, if all you have is a hammer, everything's got to be a nail, because
That's right.
if you only have access to one tool, we tend to then overuse it. And some of the tools we have are not multi tools.
Right.
So
No,
yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And it's what's the story? Your output is as good as your input.
Yep. Garbage
Whatever
in,
you
garbage
put,
out.
right, whatever you input into your body, into your mind, and that talks with your thoughts,
Hmm.
with the food, with the stuff that you put on your skin, with the environment that you position yourself in, right? Everything and anything is food that gets put into us,
Yep.
right? So if we're watching negativity all the time, if we're thinking negative thoughts, if we're that's our life. That's where we're at. But when we change that story, and it's just the changing of a story of what we tell, when we change that story and we start believing in that story, that's the key, right? It's a belief. You
Yep.
gotta we got to go from telling a story to believing the story, then from belief to become known, to become fact,
Yep.
right? Because beliefs change. You can believe that one day that you're awesome, and the next day you can believe that you're not. It's a belief. That's why we believe in God. That's why people ask, do you believe in God? I say no. I know God.
Mm. Well, yeah, it's interesting around the word belief or believe.
I love that. That's great. Yeah.
Because either way, it's made up. So for those of you in the video, I B and then BE and then LIE, lie, and then VE. And the truth is that it's all made up anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that self-perception is that story is, we've all seen people tell a lie so long that they end up believing it.
Right.
And that is the belief that, from an interpersonal or intrapersonal, if I believe I'm good enough or if I believe I'm not good enough, either way, if that's the belief, if that's the thought I hold, it does become our reality. And then we show up in a way like, if I believe that, Nitsan, you don't want to do business with me, I'm going to show up to a negotiation or the ask like, you probably don't want to, do
Right.
business with me, do you? Now, you
Hmm.
may not say it like that, but the energy,
The energy, the body.
yeah, it just comes across because there's this belief that
Right.
you could sense it. Like you could just go,
Right.
huh, I
You
don't
can
know.
show up 10 minutes late to the meeting because you don't believe that we're going to do business together.
Yeah. Yeah, or
Right.
show up 10 minutes late and go, hey, I'm going to crush this. I couldn't help what happened, and it's going to be all right. I'm going to let them know that
Hmm.
that shows my determination that, like, this funny story. When I was working with Tony Robbins, and I don't know if it helped me. I don't think I ended up selling any tickets that day, if I'm honest, but it was early in the morning. And you know how like it was a morning meeting at like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever,
Hmm.
and the sun was coming up and it was like right in the line of sight. So now I'm being blinded and I was in a parking lot I'd never been in before. And there was a light post in the parking lot, right in the middle of the parking lot, just by itself. Like that was how the light posts were. And I was blinded by it. I thought I was pulling into a spot and I drove right into the thing. I was going slow, but enough that my head hit the windshield.
Oh,
Like
wow.
the airbag should have gone off. Like it was
Mhm.
like $5,000 with damage. Like, the whole, the front of the truck. The people I was having the meeting with, the people that I was having the meeting with saw it happen. And then I still had to get out, walk over to them and introduce myself and then have that meeting. And I like still have like a blood on my head and like it was just a disaster. But I didn't give up. Like, oh, that's it. I can't do the meeting. It's like I'm here to do this, and I'm going to live what I'm teaching. I'm
Hmm.
actually going to do it right here and utilize it. Now, did it work? I don't know, but it made a nice story. I don't remember if anyone ended up buying any tickets that morning, and that wouldn't mean, for any other reason. It could have been they literally didn't have the ability. It was, I don't recall that, but
Hmm.
I do remember like going, I have to, and I got
You
the
got to
gig
show
with
up.
Tony because of that. Yeah, because
You got to show up.
yeah.
Hmm.
So that is so important. So let's kind of pivot a little bit, and you've been one of the questions I like to kind of ask is uh, all your experience in the industry, all the mentors you've had, all the studying you've done, all the travel, all the personal development you've worked on. What is like a lie or a myth that you were told or had an understanding of or a misperception of the business or personal growth or what have you that you go, oh, that's someone's selling a ball of yarn here. That's not really the way it is.
What was something that was a myth that I didn't believe was
No, that
true,
or no, that you
or that
found
I
out later. You're like, oh, that's oops. Someone's not being honest.
um it's a great question. Ooh, put me on the spot here. Okay. What was a myth that I well, I mean, in I'm going to start off, I guess, on a material side because that's the first thing that's coming to my mind. Um, you know, you need money to make money,
Mm.
right? A lot of people think, oh, I need my own money to
Hmm.
make money. Well, but I don't have any money, so I can't. Well, no, you misread the statement. It says you need money to make money. It doesn't say you need your own money to make money.
Right.
Right. And again, it goes back to how do I perceive myself? What is my view of the world? What is my perception of the world? Right. What is the perspective that I'm looking through this, glass through? Right. Like, so what am I seeing? A lot of people see going, oh, I got to have my own money. That was me. right? Going, how I would, as a kid walking down the streets of New York City, I'm looking around going, who in God's green earth has so much money they can build one of these skyscrapers by themselves? I was like, I don't know if I could ever do that.
Yeah, purely from their savings account from their
Right.
bar mitzvah.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, what do they do to get this? Is this all drug money? I mean, is that the route that we have to go? So that was a myth that was, perpetuated. And then I realized that no, it's not my money. I could go out and get other people's money and
Yeah.
use their money. And that's the way to scale. And then another myth was that I had to know everything myself.
Mm.
I don't need to know everything myself. Right. And the book Think and Grow Rich was one of the first self-help books that I ever read when I think I was 24 years old. I read that book. Right. And he talks about the mastermind group, the group of, getting people around you that are smarter than you and building that team. And I said, thank God, because Lord knows this is not the sharpest tool in the toolbox right here, for sure not, right? So that's it. And then your success is predicated solely upon you. That was another myth. It is and it isn't. It's predicated upon me because no one's coming to save me. And I love this sentence that is filled with 2 letters, each word. If it is to be, it is up to me. Mm-hmm. Right? Yes, it's my success is predicated upon me, but I don't need to. And it goes back to what I just said. I don't need to know everything. Right. I need to know how to build teams of people. Right. So my success is predicated on how well I build teams and how well I understand the market and provide a solution for things. On the spiritual side, and it's again, growing up in New York City, I was not a religious person. I was not a spiritual person. I used to go energy, shmenergy. It's all a bunch of BS, bullshit, whatever. And then when I went traveling and I saw how, yeah, I saw how it happened and how it manifested in my life and how my entire life is a manifestation of everything that I thought of and everything that I was and am. That I started to use it in my practice, in my daily life. And if I don't like something, I focus on what is it that I don't like, so I understand that, and then I change it. So the myth that, you're dealt the hand that you're dealt and play that hand and that's all, that's a myth that I cracked up as well. No, you may have been dealt a hand, but how can you use it to benefit you? Right?
Yeah.
What if
and you could turn in a couple cards.
And you can turn in a couple of cards, you can switch your hand, you can always press start and start over again, right?
One thing that until you make it a bluff.
Right. Exactly. That was something that I heard early on in my career as well. Fake it till you make it. And I didn't quite understand that. I'm like, how can I fake being a millionaire? How can I fake? I can't. I'm not going to walk out. I don't have money to buy a $3,000 suit. No, it has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the clothes and the watch and the car. It has to do with the mentality.
Yep.
Right? It has to do with the mentality. It has to do with what you think, your thoughts, how you approach people. The fact that, I deserve, and it's not a selfish thing. I think everybody needs to say this. I deserve the best. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why there's a reason why you are on this planet and existing at this particular time. We're here because the universe needs us to be here. And if we all understand that we play a pivotal role in the universe unfolding in the way it should, and we have to grasp our power because we are such powerful human beings, we can do whatever we want. Another myth is that our life is our life and we can't really control what happens to us, or we can't do anything and whatnot. That's kind of like a double-edged sword, right? I've learned that you can throw your hands up, right? There's the river of life. You get on the canoe on the river of life and you can either get on without a paddle and then you say, wherever life takes me, so be it. Or you can get on and you can say, okay, the flow is going that way, but I got the paddle and this is where I want to go. Right. And once we start focusing and thinking in the way that we want and where we want to go, it's amazing how things open up. Right.
Yeah.
And the one belief or the one known that I have is, and what I teach my daughters is that whatever you think, you're right. Whatever
Mm-hmm.
you think, I'm not going to argue with you. If you tell me you can't do something, you know what? You're right. You can't. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to try to convince you that you can do it. With my daughters, I'll tell them, listen, why don't you change that thought? Why
Mm-hmm.
don't you change the thought that, okay, I'm, I want to do it. This is my task at hand. I don't really know how, or I don't know who can help me with it, but I'm open to learning and I'm open to finding out who can help me with it. It's a different
Mm-hmm.
it's a different mindset, as you know, right? That if you say, oh, I don't know, or I can't do it, you're blocking yourself. So that's another spiritual myth that 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 I always thought that people, thoughts or whatever. I don't care. I could think that I'm crap and whatever and this and that, but I've learned that your
Yeah.
thoughts go out there. I've
It's
because
Saint Paul or Saint Peter, and the Word became flesh.
the word became flesh. Listen, Hebrew, okay? Hebrew is a mathematical language.
Mm-hmm.
Every letter in the Hebrew alphabet has a mathematical number attached to it. Words make up numbers. Numbers are the language of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think of something, it's that number that correlates to something in the universe.
Yeah, it starts calculating, starts putting it out there, starts looking
Right.
for ways that dots to connect it. My
That's right.
daughter the other day, she came home and she's on this conversation talked about believing in uh it's something that happened in, it was an opportunity she was wanting to happen at school, and she's like, oh, and I believed that I was going to get that prize or whatever. I believed that I was going to do it, and I got it. And so she's experiencing a level of manifestation from that focus and from that belief in that. Uh, the challenge, and this is for all people, especially using our kids as the example, is we do tend to see the glass half empty sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a bigger leap for some to have that belief in themselves, to overcome themselves and their self-worth. And it's an interesting dance. And I want to kind of move into touching upon that in how we show up in networking, because it occurs to me as we're talking about this, about the worth issue and the environment that we put ourselves in, and we had talked about that a little bit earlier. And a couple things come to mind. I don't know if you've ever experienced this. For me, I've been applying this since I was young. Like I put myself in the top studio on Long Island, where they were already making the big Grammy-winning records and all of that, and I surrounded myself with the people, all the A-listers. Now, what I found out in short order was I was not an A-lister. Like, I didn't have that same talent. I didn't have the same, energy, and I was able to hold my own. And when you have that mindset of, to be the least talented in the room, to be the least smart in the room, the least rich in the room, and all that, so that you could sort of rise to the challenge, right, and to be around them. And we hang out in similar circles. Have you ever experienced that thought where you're walking into a room and you're with people who have accomplished way more than you have, and could be intimidating in what they experience, and how have you navigated that? Because especially as we grow our business, we're going to always want to be into and our personal life too. Look, I'm married up, I know that, right? So how do we, or how do you navigate that conversation internally, because it's evident,
Sure.
like, okay, we're in this room. They're all billionaires and deca 100 millionaires, and we're going, well, I'm not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with that, as far as, holding that space of worth and confidence, and that
Sure.
mindset that you need to excel in a room like that?
That's a great question. And yes, I've been in many rooms like that. And those are the rooms that you want to be in.
Yeah.
right? I don't want to be the smartest, wealthiest person in the room because then where are we, right? Um, but before I go into a room like that, uh, if I'm driving somewhere, I'll sit in my car and I'll do the mantras right every day and in every way. I'm getting better and better and better. Um, uh, uh, First of all, I show appreciation and gratitude to the universe for putting me in this room. Thank you. Thank you for
Hmm.
giving me the opportunity for being here and for being around these people. And then I go back and I look at my life and I look, hey man, you know what? This is me. I have nothing to be ashamed of. I have
Hmm.
everything to be proud of, right? My accomplishments are my accomplishments and no one can take that away, right? And then I remember, and then I say to myself, well, you know what? Everybody that I'm going to meet today puts on their pants one leg at a time. They brush their teeth. They have their own worries and crap that they're dealing with, right? Now, when I go in that room, my thought is listen. I want to listen to these people. I don't want to talk because when I'm
Mm.
talking, I'm not learning. I'm not
Right.
listening. I want to figure out some questions that I can ask these people that will make me look intriguing, will make me look interesting, and they will start talking. And I will be the one that will be facilitating that conversation by asking them questions, interesting questions, and get them to talk so that I can learn about them and then build a relationship. And yes, I've been in rooms where it's been very intimidating. Very, very. There's a guy, a billionaire right there. It's like, holy shit, you serious? Billionaire? Wow. Oh my God. Right? Guy's 24 years old. He's worth $100 million. No, God's name did he do that? He's 24 years old. What? Seriously? But when you go and you're real and you're you and you come from here, people sense that, right?
Hmm.
And I'm pointing to my chest, my heart, right? When you come from your heart and you're you and you're not trying to be phony. People sense that
Yeah.
and talk and I'm truly interested in people. Doug, man, that's fantastic, man. So how long have you been the Lord of Rock? That's amazing. How did you get that to where you wanted to be? I'd love to hear, if you don't mind, a couple of stories or something, from your past and ask these questions because people love to hear themselves talk,
Hmm.
right? But I
Yeah.
know a lot of times it can be very intimidating. You walk into a room and you're like, what am I going to say to these people? What do I have in common with them? Well, he's 5'9", I'm 5'9". Okay, that's one thing.
Good start, right? Yeah.
A
It's
good
find
start. He's a
find
guy,
something in
I'm a
common.
guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? She's a gal. I'm a guy. Okay. Well, we're opposite sexes. Okay. Right. She's here. He's here at this event. So that's something. So Doug, what brought you to this event? Well, I came to meet them. Oh, really? How did you meet
Hmm.
John? Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. And what role did you play? You and I were at a networking event and one guy came over and he asked us a great question. I said, I'm going to use that. Right. So Doug, what's your claim to fame?
Mm. I ask,
Right.
what's your
Remember we were
superpower?
sitting?
Yeah.
Right. So that ask questions for people, but that old adage, don't ever let them see you sweat, right? No one knows who you are and what you have and what's going on. If you play it cool, if you know your worth, and then what I like to do is also, I'll visualize my aura. I'll visualize it, gold and light, and then I'll visualize it expanding outward, 50 feet all around me, diameter
Hmm.
3D. So that way, before I even walk through that door, people sense me coming
Right.
in. And then I
Yeah.
walk through the door and you see a couple of heads, look, you're like, yeah, I got you. I
Hmm.
got you. Right. And you put on a smile and you walk in with confidence, not egoism
Hmm.
or things of that
Or
nature, right?
arrogance.
Arrogance, that's the word I'm looking for. But a true confidence in that, listen, I'm here for a reason.
Hmm.
Let's see how we can work together. Let's see what we can do. You're obviously here for a reason as well. Maybe we get something, maybe not, but let's enjoy and build a connection.
Right. And I think that's instructive as well, is not going in transactionally based.
Correct.
And if the only transaction is I bring something to you, that was worth it too. but
Hmm.
never in the what's hey, what you got for me? I'm
Right.
coming here like what's in it for me? And what's interesting is knowing that everybody else is thinking that when you go in, I'm just looking for how I can serve. I mean, that's why I love one of the things I my favorite thing to do, especially at like random networking events. Like when we go to some of the events we go together, a lot of people know each other already. So
Right.
there's like it's like, oh yeah, I've seen them before, and yeah, I know who they are, or oh, I've heard about them, I want to go talk to them. But we go to like a networking event that it's all new people. What I love doing is learning about that person and kind of what they're looking for, what was there, what's in it for me kind of
Hmm.
mindset going in, and then I'm listening for that, and then I'm a matchmaker at the event.
Right.
And
Correct. Yep.
I'm going, oh, have you met Nitsan yet?
Hmm.
Oh, you kids got to meet. Like as an example, the great conversation we had with Benjamin. I told you about Benjamin. I was going to connect you with him before I knew he was even coming. He called
Right.
me on the way down. He's like, I'm heading down to Miami. I want to get together with you. And I was like, great. This is perfect. You got to meet Nitsan. I already, I'd already spoke to you both about meeting each other because I knew there
Hmm.
would be something there. Or I shouldn't say that. I hallucinated there could be something there.
Right.
What it became was different than even what I thought because I had no skin in the game other than going, hey, these are great people, and great people should meet, and if we do something great together, great. If not, great. I wonder how great that is to say great that many times, but
That's great.
yeah.
Well,
But
it's like the master says, right? They asked the great master, and they said, "Master, what is the meaning of life? How does one become a master?" He goes, "To become a master, you must serve others."
yeah.
Right? That's the way it is. It's all about serving others.
Hmm.
And I'm with you on that. I know that my success will be there when I go out and help enough people.
Yep. Yeah. And it also, this is where I think um, a nice learning moment is for anyone listening who's looking to overcome that hurdle to get themselves into the bigger rooms, the power player rooms, is that when you go in with that mindset, it becomes you're all you're looking at in yourself is being resourceful and how you can help others. The energy isn't on yourself like comparative. It's more like, ooh, I have something that this person may need. And by the way, I think oftentimes we think it's got to be just about this the person needs money. No, they just may need some weird resource. It could be, a
Right.
mechanic. Like who knows what it could be. And
Hmm.
when you're just open and you're just connecting and coming from authentic appreciation for that person and be asking yourself what's great about this person, because I'm sure you've also seen that too, where you've walked into a room and I saw a meme the other day about the richest person in France, and he never wears shoes. He looks like a homeless dude half the time, and he's
Hmm.
the richest person in France, and he's driving the Lambos and doing all this stuff, and oftentimes without even meaning it, we judge the person. We see them walking in, and we automatically may have a perception of that person. And the key to that is to every person that walks in, give them the benefit of the doubt till you talk to them and go, what's this? There's going to be something awesome about this person when I meet them.
Hmm.
And there may or may not be, but it's going to be a lot easier for you to find that when you go in with that attitude than judging them as soon as you see them and go, oh, that guy's jacket's, yeah, he's, that's not fitting right. What's with their hair? What's going
Yep.
on with that? Like, they're billionaire. They should be well kept. They should be, and then here we are projecting our model of the world onto someone else rather than just respecting and appreciating that everyone has their own model. I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely.
think of all the quirky people we know. And I
Hmm.
don't mean like who we know collectively, just in
Sure.
general, everyone who's listening. We all know these interesting, quirky people that you go, man, if I hadn't, like, they're amazing. If I had let their quirks define them, I may not have been able to get to know them and go, wow, they're actually really amazing, even with
That's
that
right.
tick or whatever it is.
Right. And it's funny that you say that because when I go into a networking event, I'll look for the one that's dressed, a little outlandish, or it's got the cowboy hat on, or the Daisy Duke jeans with this on. And I'm like, okay, it's a little out there. I want to go talk to that person because they
Yeah,
got the
find out what their
confidence.
story is.
They
Yeah.
got the confidence to come out as who they are. They don't give a crap about anybody else. They're solid in themselves.
Which actually cuts back to circle back to what you shared about your daughter and walking around with the two colored socks. And by the way,
Mhm.
I wear two color socks, and I've kind of done that for my daughter as well. But allowing them to have their experience, because they could go, I didn't care. I didn't
Right.
mind. As a matter of fact, that was cool. That shows that I'm like, our daughter's starting to have that attitude, like she's not having that need to fit in
Hmm.
as others. So, she almost wears it as a badge of honor
That's right.
that, I'm unique. It's great.
Hmm.
Not everyone's going to get me. That's fine.
That's right.
And that's the best gift we could give to somebody, even when we meet them for the first time, at a networking event, and honor and appreciate their eccentricities and be like, oh, that's really cool.
Yep. I was talking to my wife the other day, and after seeing all of your awesome jackets and whatnot, when you come to these networking events, I told my wife, I'm like, I'm too conservatively dressed when I go to these events. It's not me. I mean, you never met me. You didn't meet me at the time, but I had long
Yeah.
dreadlocks. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's this conservative with solid colored blazer and blah. Like, I wanna crazy it up a little bit. I wanna let me out,
Hmm.
right? And show the world that it's okay
Yes.
to be yourself and to be outlandish and to be whatever it is, as long as you're a good person,
Hmm.
right? You can be as outlandish as you want, but if and that's what I want, because then people are gonna look at me like, really? Yeah, that's pretty wild, man. Good for you. And you'll attract more, I believe.
Well, you'll attract more of your tribe.
Tribe, yes.
You may not attract more, and by the way, I'd rather have depth than breadth, and the
Absolutely.
combination is ideal. But our new friend, when I first met him, we went to lunch, and our other friend, invited me to lunch,
Mhm.
and he always does this like a couple times a month. They'll just get this random invite of like, hey, you're gonna meet cool people. I'm like, okay. And
Mhm.
so this one guy, we were just talking about, he goes, when I first met you, I couldn't figure you out. He's like, you show up and you're like, you're the guy that knows the guy, and you're obviously in the right room, but you've got this, D'Artagnan beard,
Right.
and like, and then it's like, and then as I start to talk to you, like, it's very complimentary. He's like, then it turns out like you're actually really smart. Like you can hold your own. You're having these great conversations. You're asking great questions. You're tracking
Mhm.
everything.
Right.
And then I spent more time with you, and then I realized that, like you have a great heart. These are the kind of people that you and I attract, are people who are heart centered. They're not money
Mhm.
driven, that, yeah, we're going to make
Correct.
money and we're all going to do that, but it's always going to be a win win win, that there's going to
Mhm.
be a great relationship there, and that there's going to be love, honor, and respect. Um,
Correct.
and I
Yep.
remember
100%.
like years ago, I used to have, I used to have hair down to my ass too. And I had a beard that went down, it was about 8 inches long,
Yep.
and I had it braided and all that. And actually, Rick Nielsen came. He was doing a record at our studio. And you remember Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick? He had
Yep.
the really
Mhm.
long one with the keys,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
he was like, "Oh, what do you call that?" It's funny. But anyway, I remember there's one guy. He goes, he goes, when I first met you, you look really scary, but you're not. You're really nice.
Mhm.
And there's an element to your point about like being self-expressed, however that is. And again, there's nothing wrong with being, conservative or tightly knit or whatever. Like there's some people who their look is a bow tie, right? That's great.
Exactly. Right.
It- it's, but it gives us that confidence and that certainty to just be ourselves, and like in its own way. I remember like seeing this with people with tons of tattoos, right? You see these people, all these tattoos, and for some of them, it's actually a strategy to filter,
Right.
right? Because they see all that, and they know the people who are like turned off by that, or are going to be judgy, and all that. Then like, great, I don't have to waste my time with you.
Mhm.
Because it turns
Mhm.
out my experience has been the people with the most tattoos are the biggest teddy bears,
Right.
and
Right.
it's just a way. So I think one of the cool things about being an entrepreneur is you don't have a dress code, you don't have
Right.
any of that to work with, but you could be fully self-expressed, which will give you the opportunity to attract or repel your ideal person.
That's right. I was at an event once when I had my long dreadlocks, and they were long. They were down below my butt by the time I cut them. And this one guy walks up to me. Now, mind you, this was, I would say, around 2015, somewhere around that time. He walks up to me with a wool double-breasted suit from the 80s. Okay. And he walks up to me and goes, "Do you think somebody's going to do business with you when you have all that hair like that?" I said, "Well, you know what? If they don't want to do business with me because of my hair, I don't want to do business with them. Because if they can't see past that and have a conversation with me, and the hair is what's blocking them, they're too close-minded for me.
Yep.
I don't want to waste my time with them." And I turned around and I walked away. And that's the reality. Like you said, we will attract our tribe when we have that,
Yep.
right? People will sense it. People will know, hey, you know what? That's a cool dude, man. You know what? I love the fact that he's got that cool ass beard and whatnot, and the gold ring and the silver rings and whatnot. He's a heavy metal rocker. I want to talk to him. He's probably got some kick ass stories.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
and like obviously with humility, we could carry great conversations, and it wouldn't matter what we're wearing.
Mm-hmm.
There's also an element of I don't want to say surprise, but it throws people off a little bit so that it gives them an opportunity to see things from another perception and to
Yes.
shatter maybe what they're thinking. You go up and
Mm-hmm.
meet somebody like when I had the long hair, I had a nose ring and all my earrings and all that, and I go play golf with my dad at the country club, and like the people would say the same thing, like, "Oh my gosh, like he doesn't act like he looks."
Right. Right.
Like he's having these great conversations, talking about investing, talking about making records, talking about all this big stuff, and yet you look at him and you don't know what to expect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think there's an element of value to that.
Absolutely.
What that ultimately means, who knows? Like we
Mm-hmm.
again, these are the cards we're dealt with, and then we doctor them up as we do because we put our personality in them. We
Sure.
enhance our essence.
That's right. That's right. We're not sheep. We don't fall into the flock. We're the outliers.
Yeah,
And we're the ones like, hey, you know what? I may be a sheep, but I'm gonna paint my fur pink,
right.
right? Just to look a little different.
Yeah, and enjoy the
Uh,
process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know,
Love it.
you got to enjoy the process. You got to enjoy the process. You got to enjoy. It's not, it's not the destination, it's the journey. And you know what, man? I'll tell you, that's the myth. That's a myth that I shattered when I finally got to the summit of one of the Himalayan mountains in India. I went skiing and whatnot. And it was a dream of mine to go to the Himalayan mountains. And I ended up there just by fluke. Got on a bus because I was in India and people going, "Oh, you got to go to the mountains. You got to go to the mountains." I didn't realize what mountains they were. I didn't
Which
open up a
mount?
map and be like, "Oh, it's the Himalayan mountain." Okay, great. I got on a bus, 18 hours drive up to the mountains, and I open my eyes and I see these grandiose things. I'm like, "Holy shit, what is this?" I wake up the Indian dude next to me who's sleeping on my shoulder. I go, "Baba, what's the name of these mountains?" He goes, "What, you don't know?" I'm like, "No, what is it?" He goes, "Oh, Himalayan." I was like, "No shit."
Wow.
Okay, that's awesome.
Cool.
I went to the village. We're hanging out there, and I said, "Yeah, I want to go ski that tip." And finally, we got up to the tip, and I'm looking all around the vastness of the mountains range and everything. And I'm looking, I'm like, "Whoa, I made it." And I was like, "Okay, now what?" And then I took a second and I said, "All right, I'm here." I looked, took 5 minutes, glanced, and like, "Okay, but now what do I do?" And I started thinking of the journey. This journey to get me to the top of the mountain started with my father passing away.
Mm.
And it took me to Israel, and it took me traveling all throughout India, to the south, to the west, in the center, and then going up, and then finally being here. And then I said, "Okay, who was I when I left New York at the age of 27? And who am I today standing on the top?" And I have a picture of me like this. My friend took it with the mountain range behind. I'm standing with my hands open. I said, "But who am I today standing here?" That's the real important part, that journey that I took to get here. And because we always hear, "Oh, it's not the journey, it's not the destination, it's the journey." But it's true. It's the journey. It's who we become along the way. and the experiences we have.
Right. And like to take that a step further is because it's the journey, it's because it's always the present moment.
Always the present.
It's we get bogged down when we detach ourselves from the present and get lost in the stress and or the dream of the
Hmm.
future. Now, I'd rather much rather have if I'm going into the future, I'm gonna have the dream of the future because that's where I'm going. But to be locked in that, then I lose the ability to navigate in the present because I could be unrealistic. I could be making decisions on things that are not the right timing. Like you have a
Absolutely.
vision, you have your business plan when you got your pro forma, you're putting together your business and you have a great vision for it, but there's certain things you can and can't do at different times until you have some other stuff.
And
And
and on the way to that journey, crap's gonna happen.
right.
Shit's gonna knock you on your ass. Shit's gonna take you sideways. Things are gonna fall apart. And then it's, how do you act in those situations?
Hmm.
Who do you become in that situation? Right? It's, you take a glass, you drop it on the floor, it shatters into a million pieces. Some of the pieces just disintegrate into glass powder and become nothing. And then some pieces break and they become a sharp tool that you can slice somebody's jugular and it becomes a weapon of mass destruction. Okay, I'm going right. Do you get my point?
Yeah.
Right. So when life happens, when things go sideways, how do you act? And I use the word act rather than react,
Right.
right? Because shit
Or
happens.
respond.
Respond, right? How do you act in that situation? Do you fall apart and freak out and go blah, blah? I I have my oh shit rule. When things go sideways, when things happen, you're allowed to say oh shit 3 times. Like holy shit, oh shit, oh shit. See that happen? Okay, you freaked out. Great, collect yourself. Take a deep breath. Center. Look at the problem at hand. Now take the take the hat that sees the problem off and put the hat that sees the solution and finds the solution and start working for the solution, right? Because the problem that created the mind can't be the same mind. The mind that created the problem or saw the problem can't be the same mind that finds a solution. You
Yep.
got to switch. So it's okay to freak out. You got 30 seconds to freak out, right? Get it out of your system. Don't bottle it up because then it'll fester and come out in different ways. Get it out quickly. Take a deep breath, center, refocus, and go, okay, how do we solve this? Who do I need to call? What do we need to
Yep.
do? What's the solution here? Because then the universe will bring solutions to you.
And to be creative around that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Think of as at least three different ways to
Right.
solve that challenge. And one of the things for those who are just listening, what you did was when you talked about hat, you actually made the motion of a hat. That actually is profound for some of us to do, is to actually act as if we are
Yes.
putting on a new hat. There's something that happens, spiritually when we're actually putting our body through that motion. So even if like, it's even great to have your own hat, have
Mm-hmm.
your, say, okay, I'm going to put on my, like, Heidi,
My
my
thinking
wife,
hat, my
yeah,
thinking hat, my
the
my
thinking hat,
solutions hat.
solutions hat. Yeah, my wife has it's more of a joke, but when it's that time of the month for her and she's in PMS mode, she has a Darth Vader shirt that she wears. So I
I love it.
know, like, it's like,
Right.
oh, okay, cool, now, so it's one of those things that there's this when you take that action, it does have our minds do something, and when you see, like, if you have partners, like,
Mm-hmm.
and there's one last thing, and then we could wrap this up. But do you know the Disney strategy? So
Uh,
Walt Disney, when he was designing his movies and the parks and
mhm.
all that stuff, he what he did was he had three different rooms that they would work in. And the first room was the creative room. And in that room, they had all these props, and they had and the only thing you could do was be creative. Just come up with as many cool creative ideas and characters on how you're going to solve this problem, how you're going to build this ride, how you're going to do whatever it is. But everyone in the room could not do anything but be creative. You can't say anything bad. You can't get how you're going to do it. You're not going to look at the how. You're just going to have the fun. You're going to be, wacky and wild. Then they would actually leave that room with a bunch of ideas. They pick their top ideas, and then they'd move into the execution room. Now, this room was a completely different room, looked different, all of that. This room was the how. Let's come up with as many different ideas how we can do it without turning anything down, not shooting any ideas down. We're just going to go, how
Right.
could we do this, etc. Then they went into a third room, and that third room Walt called the downer. And that room was the room that people would then analyze and critique and look for the problems and why this won't work and all of that. And they basically
Mm-hmm.
carve away
Right.
things, and then what was left, they would then cycle back through either one of those two rooms. They need to be even more creative, or do they need to go back? Like by going back to the drawing board, or are we going back to okay, now here's some things to work on execution, and ran that cycle. But they were three distinct different rooms, and it's instructive because oftentimes, to your point, we can't solve our problems with the same mindset that
That's right.
created them.
That's
So
right.
what can we do? And that's where also team is so important, to surround ourselves with people who hold us to a high standard, it's a
Mm-hmm.
trusted advisors, partnerships, et cetera. And I consider you to be in that in my world. And
Mm-hmm.
I know I could call you, and you've been, more than gracious in sharing ideas and perspectives and all that. And I like to think I've been the same for you. And it's
Absolutely.
that's what makes the world go round, and this is where we find our tribe of people, where we celebrate their successes. We
Mm-hmm.
like, lovingly, graciously, and expecting nothing in return, give of resources, because when we each do that for each other without expecting anything other than your happiness in achieving that goal, that makes everything that much better, and that makes the journey that much more enjoyable, because we're doing it now with friends. We're doing it with people we love
Right.
and care about, who inspire us, who we can enjoy. Like I love bumping into, like, nothing like, oh, about this thing too. Like I don't
Right.
know why I didn't tell you about it, right? Like, or the meet group or the other stuff. Like I want you to meet like these other people. Let's find a way to get us all together, because you never know where that
Right.
magic is going to occur. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the spiritual experience, I think, ultimately, is because we're living beyond the material. We're living
Yes.
beyond the emotional, that we're getting ourselves to a place where we're vibrating at a frequency where we genuinely celebrate each other's successes and look forward to, seeing it happen, not
Mm-hmm.
getting jealous, not getting like, oh, it's like,
Right.
oh, this is awesome.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You said that word jealous, and going back to, the room where where you're not as successful, or you're not where you want to be, and they're billionaires and whatnot, and you're like, "God, is that guy doing? Oh shit!" That's the negativity.
Hmm.
That's never going with that jealousy. Going, you know what? That dude is a billionaire. I want to learn from him. What did they do? I'm so excited to be there and to learn from them and to grow. And who knows, maybe I'll say something funny and they'll laugh and they'll remember me. Maybe I'll say something profound and they'll remember that. But that you don't want to go in there with that bad taste.
Right.
With the these guys, what they what can they offer me? They're billionaires. Why would they want to talk to me? Well, no, man, they're human beings.
Yeah.
Make them laugh, tell a funny joke, connect with them, right? See,
Well,
it's
and there's an element, I think, when we go in with that level of confidence as well. I mean, I dealt with this when I was in, the music industry, all the celebrities. Man, when you don't, like, I mean, obviously treat everyone with love and respect, but like when you're not like awestruck, and you're just treating them like another person,
mm-hmm.
man, they appreciate that. They're
Yep.
used to people asking for something or yesing them, or whatever. But when you're just like, you just treat them like a regular person, and
Mm-hmm.
don't treat them any differently, it's refreshing, I imagine.
Oh,
To
absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I belong to this mastermind group where it's with all these social influencers and coaches that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in their coaching, and they're really successful. And I see them online. I'm like, wow, these guys are amazing. What are they doing? And I'm looking, and then I meet them in person, and you're kind of awestruck, kind of starstruck. And I'm like, ooh, that's the guy. And I'll just walk up to him like, hey, John, I see you on social media. I love what you're doing. Keep up the good work, man. Right on, rock and roll. Boom.
yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
Right? You're like you're giving them that satisfaction that they've been seen. You're not asking for anything. You're treating them like a human being, and like you're like Pace Morby. We see Pace Morby. He belongs to that thing.
Hmm.
At first I was like, "Ooh, that's Pace." I'm like, yeah, that's Pace. Okay, he's further ahead than I am in my coaching business, so he can teach me a couple of things or two. And why don't I just go say hi? I'm like, "Hey, Pace, man, it's good to see you.
Yeah.
I follow you on social media. I love what you do, man. Very inspiring. Keep it up." The guy's like, "Oh, thank you so much."
Yeah,
Right?
and he
Not
may even go,
asking
so
for
what do you do? Tell me
anything.
about you. And then if he's got the time, and that's what'll happen with any,
Exactly.
normal conversation.
Exactly. Right. Hmm. Absolutely. 100%, man.
Love
It's
it.
all it's all in the vibe.
Amen. So as we're wrapping up, let's before we get your particulars and how people can get in touch with you. This is somewhat of a trite question, but it's usually pretty cool. Is knowing what you know now, and I'm sure you've answered this question before. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to your younger self? Maybe there were some times when there was a challenge. Maybe there was a time that there was some issue, and knowing what you know now, what advice would you have given yourself?
It's a good question. Um, I'll give the advice that was given to me when I was 24 years old. Find someone who has what you want, do what they did, and you'll get what they got. And it could be
Yeah.
in relationship, it could be financial, it could be material, it could be money, it could be personality. Find someone who has what you want, do what they did, and you'll get what they got. It's that simple.
Love
And
it.
and the other thing is that trust in the universe that you are where you need to be
Mm,
and learn. Just learn from it. Yeah.
presence.
Mm-hmm. Presence. And
You're
rethink and
exactly where
grow
you need
rich
to
as
be.
early as possible.
And how many times?
Every year, at least once.
Yep. And another one is oh, I'm drawing a blank right now. Whilst he waddles, The Science of Getting Rich.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Very similar, and it's a shorter book, little easier
Yes.
read.
Yes.
Awesome. So, Nitsan, thank you so much. If people wanted to get in touch with you, where might they do that?
Sure. Well, for those that are watching the video, I got my phone number right here, so you can
Yeah,
text me. I don't know if I can.
yeah, which is 561 two
Five six
one
one
two.
7247
That's right. That's five six
Okay.
one two
two
one
one
two
two seven
seven
two
two
four
four
seven.
seven. David Dweck always says, say it 3 times.
There you go. And you can email me for sure. My first name is Nizan. I know I have a T over there. That's just for pronunciation, but it's Nizan at mtninvestmentgroup.com. That's Nitsan, Nizan at mtninvestmentgroup.com. I'll say it the third time.
Well, and it's an N as in Nancy, M as
Correct.
in Mary, T as in Thomas, N as in Nancy.
Right. Right. So Nitsan at Mountain, it's like the abbreviation of Mountain, mtninvestmentgroup.com. You can also go on my website, which is MultiFamily Inc., as you can see here, MultiFamily, MULTI, Family Inc., INC.com. If you want to work, get some coaching, learn more about multifamily, how to create passive income, I've got an application there. You can fill it out. I go over all the applications myself, but feel free to reach out to me. I'm accessible. I'm open. I want to talk to people, and I love meeting new people.
Love it, brother. Well, thank you so much. I love you for who you are and who you aren't.
Thank you, man. Same here, brother.
All right, we'll see you soon. God bless.